betting that the ceasefire would be extended and that Donald Trump would chicken out, you're right. I mean, I guess now people are betting on, all the prediction markets as well as the stock. You can make money on Donald Trump's stupidity or his ineffectualness. That's where America is now. It shouldn't be, but I mean, how would you have bet this, right? I mean, yesterday, J.D. Vance is going to be wheels up in Islamabad. Oh, no, he's coming to Washington. He's in the West Wing. Today, he's going to go. No, he's not going. Whitner and Kushner. Or Witkoff and Kushner, the amateur diplomats. They're going to be in Islam. No, they're here in Washington. So, I mean, that's a virtue of a 16, 20-hour flight. You can't mess around. And Donald Trump got caught. And so the ceasefire has been extended. And for now, because there are no talks, and Donald Trump doesn't want to go to war, so what do we have? Anyway, welcome to Emil, Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We're coming on because I'm going to be out of town a little later on in the week, so I thought we'd hit it hard in the first few days of the week. We'll bring up Professor Dan. We want to talk about the ceasefire, the extension. We want to talk about Trump blinking. We want to talk about Betty Yee. I know I like to talk about Betty Yee because she's competent. There's no scandal. And she's, a decent rate. She can't raise any money. No one wants what she's buying. I think that's unfair. Betty Yee pulled out of the gubernatorial race yesterday morning. I saw her. I was sad for her because she knows her fiscal stuff. She knows how to deal with massive budgets. She knows how to deal with a $4.3 trillion economy. I think, fourth or fifth largest in the world. I think Betty Yee would have been extremely, if you were just purely non-ideological, you say, Betty Yee, Asian American. What's not to like? Well, apparently a lot, because no one's giving her money. Meanwhile, there is another Asian candidate running for lieutenant governor. She has a sex scandal. She's raising money left and right. She's got unions backing her up. And she's not Betty Yee. I know this candidate running for lieutenant governor. I've known her for years. She's got an allure about her. But she continues on her political journey because it's musical chairs in California. Asian American woman. Betty Yee, in the meantime, I don't know what's next for her. But she's not going to run for governor. Anyway, we'll talk about Betty more. We'll talk about Kash Patel. Is he going to win that lawsuit? And we'll talk about more stuff. And but first, coming on May 2nd, we like to do this show and bring it sort of on the road. The San Francisco Public Library, they're great friends of mine. I love the San Francisco Public Library. And for years, I've loved the library and its resources. I've used the Correct Auditorium a lot for different organizations. But on May 2nd, I'm going to be with my next guest coming up, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, and we're going to be doing what we do. We talk to you, but you could be there and we'll interact. It's at the San Francisco Public Library in the main library, 100 Larkin Street. That's at the Horner Room on the 3rd floor. It's free, and it's at 2 p.m. on a Saturday. So, hey, free, 2 p.m. on a Saturday, May 2nd, first weekend of Asian American Heritage Month. The Filipino Library there at the San Francisco Public Library, the main branch, they are saying, come on, come talk about Filipino history, Asian American history. And Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies. He'll be there joining me. We'll talk. As you'll recall, last time we did it, we talked about the strike, the SF state strike. And on May 2nd, we're going to talk about immigration. Then and now, how Filipinos and Asian Americans are treated in the past, how they're treated now, differences, similarities. We're all screwed still, right? It would seem. We'll take your input also. We'll be up there for, I don't know, 90 minutes or so. Should be fun. San Francisco Public Library, main branch, 100 Larkin Street, on the Hormel room, third floor. It's free, and it's on from 2 p.m. to 3:30. Up there, main branch. Be there. It's free. Did I say it's free? It's free. Of course. So please show up, and we'll have a good time. All right, let me bring up my cohort who will be with me talking about stuff that day on May 2nd. Here he is, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. Hello, Dan. How are you?
Good. How about all
Well,
of these resignations going on? Wow,
oh, yeah.
really wild time. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, a lot of people resigning. We got the congressman because, look, she took, allegedly took some money, and she wants to keep it alleged. She doesn't want to open herself up to the kind of scrutiny that she would get in an expulsion hearing, and she doesn't want the notoriety of being expelled from Congress. So yeah, it's sort of like Swalwell. I'm out of here. Thank you very much. It was great to serve. Let me get my retirement and get out of here. And so I've seen her talk. Let's see, I don't have her exact name here. I got to get
Sheila Charfilis McCormick.
Oh yeah, from Florida. I've seen her talk. She, sympathetic, but I don't think she didn't have a, I guess, as they say, a leg to stand on. So she did the best thing, which was just to go. We got the labor secretary, who, did she resign or did she get fired?
I don't know. I think she beat the bullet. I think she resigned.
She beat. Well, the thing about the labor secretary, people don't even know the labor secretary's name usually, because the labor secretary usually gives all the job stats. She becomes kind of a buddy of the news people on every Friday. But this one was more known for having her staffers get her liquor, and her husband hitting on fellow bureaucrats at the bureau at the labor department. Even her father. This is a horny group of Republicans. And this is the thing. The peccadillos of this group of Republicans, outrageous, and so we're going to get rid of her. And then we got Kash Patel.
He's still there. He's hanging in, man.
Is he long for the world?
Out. According to members of his own staff, he freaks out. He freaked out when something went wrong with his website or his email, and he thought he had been fired, and nobody told him.
Yeah. Well, look, the thing about Kash Patel is he knows how to play to the party of one, which is, of course, Donald J. Trump. And as long as you're fighting, put out a frivolous lawsuit. But the frivolous lawsuit, which claims defamation, truth is a defense. And the only way Kash Patel could win is if he can prove that there's actual malice in the printing of these facts, or these, the story. If the Atlantic printed out things that they knew were definitely wrong. And I don't know.
Actually, he can win. He doesn't have to show absolute malice. All he has to do is show, at the very least, that they were negligent. They were grossly negligent in checking out the facts. So he doesn't have to prove absolute malice.
He doesn't. In order to win All right, so maybe he gets into a settlement kind of phase, or
Yeah,
so. I mean, so
all they have to do, all the defense has to do, is show that for the most part, what they said was true. And under U.S. Under Sullivan versus New York Times, right, which is
yeah,
the old ass case
yeah,
from the '60s, it still holds true today. And the definition of the level, right, of harm that needs to be done to the individual who has lost reputation, harm to their reputation,
mm,
it can either be intentional or negligent, and especially grossly negligent. And in the instance of the Sullivan case, not everything that the New York Times published was absolutely true. It was
uh,
mostly true,
all right, but
and
I
that was
mean,
enough.
but you're going in there with all these sources. You've talked to several dozen people. You
Yep.
put out you attribute the sources. Uh, they're true as far as you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it's still a defense for the Atlantic if they say, look, we published what we thought was true. We did not know. I mean, you lose if you say, if you print something, in my understanding, you lose if you print something that you know is false.
Oh yeah.
If you know it's false,
That's
then
intentional. I said if it's intentional, then that's clear.
yeah.
But
So if
it can also be grossly negligent. So I'm just saying that he doesn't have to show that they were completely intentional, and they don't. He doesn't. Oh, they don't have to prove that 100% of everything they said was true. As long as it's mostly true, and they did a decent job of journalism,
yeah,
tracking down all of their information, and finding it provable, right, that there's highly reliable sources, and there are facts, independent facts, right,
mm.
that support their position. They're fine, and I think they're going to be fine. And the Atlantic is really an excellent publication.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you think the Atlantic's going to be fine, but there you see a pathway for Patel to maybe get a minor victory?
No, I'm just saying he doesn't have to prove that they were absolutely intentional. Okay,
Okay, all right.
he can just show gross negligence, and I'm saying in response to that the Atlantic is probably fine because they're an excellent publication.
Yes, yes.
They
Well,
do
they
really deep work when they do their background research. They're really deep.
well, here's the thing about, you know, reputable journalism organizations. They don't put out anything they can't prove. They don't put out, I mean, that piece is lawyered to death before it goes out.
Yep.
You know, so uh they're saying essentially, all right, take your best shot, Cash Patel, because we have the goods and we've talked to all these people, and it's a preponderance of facts or preponderance of, I don't know if it's evidence, but these people's discussions about what happened, when, and how Cash Patel was dealing with his job. That's got to count for something. And here's what may shift it over to the Atlantic. When you open up a case like this and it becomes, you know, discovery,
There it is.
Cash Patel, does he want to open himself up to, you know, that kind of scrutiny? Because if he does, well, I mean, either he's really smart or really dumb, because it does open himself up to just about everything.
Discovery could result in the Atlantic finding even more
Yeah,
than they published so far. That's the risk that he's taken. Okay,
yeah,
not only that they'll be able to prove clearly, that what they published is an accurate statement. All right, they may find more, and that's the
yeah,
risk that he's putting himself to. And this guy is such a fool. I mean, he's a demonstrable idiot, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
just what you've seen on video, and
Well, look,
live.
all he has to do is, uh, number one, please the boss. I mean, this is Washington think. If you've never worked in Washington, the way it works, Donald Trump has kind of made this sort of the thing about how Washington works. The boss is everything, and right now, Trump is the boss. If you please the boss, everything is good. Audience of one. Kash Patel is really good at that. He's not good at protecting Americans from, you know, from
Oh,
crime
that's
and
really a
from
concern.
the bad
That is
guys.
a concern.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, if
yeah.
they've got okay, they've overused ICE, they've overused the Border Patrol, right? They've got them doing work that they're not supposed to be doing. Not that
Yeah.
people keep saying that they weren't trained for it. It's not only that they haven't been even properly vetted. Okay, and then they
Mhm.
have FBI personnel doubling up and doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. They're being
Yeah.
taken off national security issues, right? And this is a prime time. Okay.
Yeah.
And Iran
And,
is known to have sleeper cells everywhere, right? That they've
well,
used
well,
in other countries and that they could easily use here in the United States.
yeah. This
That's
is
the
the
problem that
thing.
I have. Okay.
Well, so you get what you're getting at is, I guess it's easier. It's better to be not that the Atlantic is blackmailing him. The Atlantic is just uncovering stuff about Patel, but it's better that the Atlantic does it rather than all these foreign agents who then have something on Patel, who has something to hide, and then he's compromised.
Look, man, they're beyond that. They already have all kinds of stuff on Patel. And look, Mossad has stuff on Trump. Okay. And
Oh.
that's one of the reasons that we're in this war. Okay, they're all really good at what they do in terms of their intelligence gathering. They make
Wait.
they make journalism look like child's play. Okay,
Well,
because
they're
that's the
getting
way intelligence systems work.
they're behind the scenes. They're getting at the truth. I've always said journalism is the news that people don't want you to know, and very often journalism is just stuff that people want you to know because it's a PR release or it's
Yeah,
something that is
that's the
out there.
problem.
It's easy, but the real journalism, the investigative stuff, is several layers deep, and that's where the intelligence agencies go, and that's where you get stuff that really no one wants revealed. And
Well, here's a
I
really easy
guess,
question. Why is it that
yeah.
so many journalists get thrown into prison in places like Hungary and Russia? Okay. Why? Because it's assumed that they're passing on intelligence. It's assumed that journalism, two places, right? Academics and journalists are perfect as intelligence gatherers, right? And if they're
Yeah.
doing it for a government, that makes them spies. It's as simple as that. All right.
Well, so you're saying in other countries that's the case. That's not the case here in America.
Are you kidding? Oh my
Well, I
God.
don't. What
Are
I
you
mean,
kidding? Dude.
what journalists as spies?
Oh my God.
All right, give me an example of one. Most of the
I'm
spies
about
are.
I'm about to get, just because they don't get burnt, that doesn't mean they don't do it. Okay. I'm telling you right now. That's one of the silliest things I've ever heard you say. I,
Well,
oh
I
my
just
God.
I
But you know what? People said, look, the CIA cannot do intelligence on American citizens in the United States. And during the strike at San Francisco State, we were laughing at that. Okay, we were laughing at that. Now,
Are-
years afterwards, of course, all of the information came out after Nixon. After Watergate, people went scurrying around looking for information, and guess what came out? Yep, CIA was doing
all right, the
domestic
CIA.
spying.
Yeah,
Okay.
I gather the CIA is
And who do you
there.
think they were using as agents? They were using journalists as agents. There were people
Oh.
writing all kinds of stuff about us, and so half of it was propaganda. And then when we get our FOIA reports, it's all blacked out. So you're
All right,
saying
look,
the journalists
I'm
aren't doing
standing.
that?
I'm standing up for journalists. The CIA may have used journalism to tell them where I do not know. I do not know of any journalists who knowingly have worked with the CIA, and if they did, I doubt they'd be in journalism law. That's all. I don't. Call me. I'm not saying it never has happened, but the people who do work with the CIA, if they're journalists,
So you don't
aren't
think
journalists.
anybody that's ever worked for Fox Broadcasting, this Fox Satellite or Newsmax or any of those kinds of outlets, you don't think that any of them have played corrupt with the
I'm
Trump
not. Look,
administration?
I'm not saying that they're all paragons of virtue, but I am saying that people who are serious journalists do not work for the CIA. Hey, I can laugh too. Hey, but you know what? Professors in universities have worked
Yes,
for
they
the
do,
CIA.
and
They have
I
worked,
will
but
tell you,
I'm just
I
saying.
will tell you that right
I'm just
now.
saying.
Yes, they do, and they did, and a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
them did
but
it
I'm saying
as cover. They did it as,
journalists.
oh yeah, they're holy. Oh, journalists are holy. They're nowhere
I
as
would say,
corrupt
look,
as professors. That is
no,
one
no,
of the
no.
silliest
You're
things I've
right
ever heard you
that
say.
you're right that journalists aren't paid enough to be as holy as they are. But that shows the commitment. I'm just saying, Dan, if someone if someone did that, they'd never work in journalism again. They do something else. But I cannot, you know, let you get away with saying a blanket statement like, "Oh, do you think?" And no one at Newsmax or at Fox or at any of these places they've never worked with the CIA. I don't know, but you know what? Uh, I'm sure that someone like Roger Stone. I don't count him as a journalist. Sometimes there are operatives, political operatives, who work on, with journalism organizations, and they act as commentators. I can't vouch for them. I mean, even what's his name? The general, Flynn, Michael Flynn, right? Is he a journalist? I think he was on a couple cable shows. But I just think that the rank and file journalists, professional journalists, would never work for the CIA. That's it. You know, I mean,
I'm not saying,
not
I'm
knowingly.
not generalizing. You're making me sound like I'm not generalizing about everybody, and I'm saying there are always individuals
Uh,
in any profession, okay,
okay,
because
yeah, all right, sure,
because
true.
of their own political beliefs, their own sincere biases. Okay, what about
All
Justice
right.
Thomas? Does he have sincere biases that are
He does
dangerous
have
for
he
some
has
of us?
biases. He has biases, but
Are they? But
I
do his biases present a danger to some of us from a
oh
legal
yeah,
perspective?
I think they do. But you know what? You there have been good reports on how he's been influenced by big money and taking gifts, and that was a big ProPublica expose. You know, but I can't prove that he is. You know, to the degree that aside from the ProPublica uh, articles, I can't prove that he's how just how compromised he is. He still has. I'm not trying to defend Clarence Thomas, and I'm not trying to, but I am defending journalists and the journalism that we see on a national basis.
Would it make
And
you feel better if I said that in general, I believe that most professional journalists are trying to do an honest job of journalism? Would that help?
well, I think they are. I don't think they dig hard enough. I think some of them are on bended knee and only trying to get the handouts and not
Okay,
trying
if
to
you
dig
can
deeper.
accept that,
But
why can't you accept that those who are bended knee, okay,
mm,
if they're only doing it because they're afraid of power or because of their own ambitions, right? There are limitations to that. But I'm
all right,
saying there are people who are really driven by true and very profound beliefs, okay?
okay.
And it's those
Look,
people
I
that I
accept that.
worry about.
I accept that, and those people, they generally don't go far at the New York Times or the Washington Post, and if they do, then they've
Well,
hidden it
I
pretty
can agree
pretty
with
well.
that. I can agree with that, but most journalists don't come up to the standard required to work
Well, all right, all
at
right.
the NYT.
Well, yes, but I think, see, when I think of journalists who have that kind of access or who know certain things, I think of a level of journalism where I don't have any question. They're not spies. They're working for the public. Now, you're talking about an example of people who might have written stories about you or about, the strike that, the SF state strike. Maybe there are some people who wrote for labor magazines or whatever, or labor publications or something else. Yeah, they're getting paid 10 cents a word. It's very easy for them to have different kind of attitudes. But for I would say, I'm just standing up for professional journalists. Professional journalists who believe in what they do. Uh, I don't think twice about them being spies. They're not spies. Other people who might work in journalism organizations, like the commentators and the analysts who come on, that's a little gray area. That guy who goes on and talk about, who is pretty much the Republican mouthpiece on CNN, Scott Jennings. I don't, to me, he's in a journalistic realm, but I don't trust him. He has an opinion, and people put him on, or CNN puts him on because they want to seem like they've got, an aspect of news covered. But anyway, I just bristle when you say that journalists are spies. Maybe the bad ones, and I'm not saying all journalists
I
100%
didn't
are
say that all
angels.
journalists were spies. All I said was that some journalists, can
Okay.
in fact share information, okay, with intelligence services, and they do it
All
all
right.
the time, okay. Sometimes they do it unknowingly. Sometimes they do it as a matter of exchange of information, okay.
All right.
So you don't think that journalists have connections with Mossad? You don't think that journalists have connections, through different sources that they have on the ground with European intelligence
Oh
service?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
But even the journalists who deal with Mossad every day, if you were caught and like if you were with a decent professional journalism organization and you crossed the line, you'd be fired. I have no doubt you'd be fired. There may be people who might try to play it, you know, uh, they might try to have it both ways, but for the most part, real professionals don't do that. Anyway, but we
wow.
have
I
established.
I really, I have great respect for your commitment to the integrity of journalism as
Not all of
you,
us.
okay.
Not all of us have
Well,
integrity.
if you can accept that there are problems, okay, and if I'm just talking about the reality that these things
Yeah.
occur. If the people
All
who
right.
deal in the gathering of information, right, are
All right.
all susceptible to this, all of them.
All right. I just think, all right, but I will accept that, but I will add that academics are further susceptible to sharing
I have no problem
information.
with that. I
I
have no
know,
problem
I
with
know,
that.
but I see. I think academic integrity is, well, I can see where people might find the gray area where they can exist. I think for most journalists, and I think this is a problem with journalism, that some journalists will, they know where the line is and they don't cross it. Um, I mean, it happens in something very simple like, do I work in government or do I report on the government? And once you cross the line, you got to know where that line is. And
Yeah, well,
um,
so but
it,
see, here's another part of the problem. Okay,
mm,
people in power move the line. Okay, so
sometimes.
journalists sometimes. What's happening with the
Well,
Trump administration, man? They've moved the line
well,
way over, so that anybody who talks critically of them, anybody who says that, well, you got to look at the Palestinian side of things, right? Regardless of
mm,
October 7th, right? That not only are they being called anti-Semitic, okay,
yeah,
just for being critical, all right, they're also
yeah,
being called terrorists,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're being kicked out of offices. They're being kicked out of the White House press
What,
area. They were
yeah,
being limited at the Pentagon, and so you're not recognizing that they're playing with the line Come on,
Well,
man.
no. The Trump administration is, and
Okay.
the fact that they use the news media and manipulate the news, like they'll go to the business or the business channels, they'll go to Fox, and Fox has essentially become propaganda news. No, it's clear that they are manipulating uh, where the line is. I'm just saying that professional journalists generally won't play that game,
I agree.
and
I agree.
the professional journalism, if you deal or read a professional product from a professional news organization, they I don't think you have to worry about their journalists being spies. But other places where people are paid 10 cents a word, you might have cause to worry. So I don't want to paint the entire.
You're connecting it with money, and sometimes that's the case. Okay.
Well, you're connecting
Even
it solely
even
on belief, solely on passion, solely on
I
political.
don't think it's solely on, why do you want to deal in absolutes like that? It could be a
Well,
combination of any of those factors. The
yeah,
next,
but
that is much closer to the reality of circumstances. Okay.
yeah, I just think money is a factor when when it comes to journalists, because journalists are generally poorly paid, and uh, I think that that's one of the problems with the profession right now. So there's probably a greater chance of the kind of situation that you're talking about existing. In fact, I know some young journalists who have come up and they are now in prominence, and they were working with right-wing publications. Um, that used to disqualify them, from working in mainstream publications, and now things are, you could still there's some redemption, but like I said, this is what makes it hard for people to trust the news, and you know, but I don't know how we got on talking about spies and journalism, but I
Well,
don't I
because
don't
because I said that you got to worry about people doing things under the cover of their professions, and I started to talk about journalists, and you went off. Like I was.
because I don't uh well, I would be curious if any. I don't know if any journalists have been caught. Have there been any journalists? I guess it would all be surreptitious and off the records, I guess, if they continue to do it. But
Well, they don't have to be full-time agents or anything like that. All they have to do is share information or work on a particular case.
yeah,
They might find something out that their own editors and publishers will not print, and that they
yeah,
that they feel is very important, and that should be shared, and that's a good motivation for them. So exactly the motivation that they have to tell the truth could be, okay, the problem. It could be the problem, and I believe it was the problem with journalists, especially in the 60s and 70s. It was, look at the Vietnam War and the way it was being reported. Okay.
yeah. I think the Vietnam War had more to do with uh, access. There was some, who was out there. I I I I think it was selective. I think it's still a problem, right? I mean, what gets reported now, what we see. It's always a matter of,
Well,
um,
right now, the role of government, right, in the toxic information, in generating toxic information and
yeah,
pretending as though it's news, right,
uh,
is much worse than it ever was, even during the Vietnam War.
yeah. Well, I think there's news that you get from the Times, and there's new. I think it's worse now because we have social media, and social
Yeah,
media
that's a
can
major factor.
be filled with stuff that can be doctored, stuff that can look like news, stuff that looks like an original thing. Um, when it's an old thing, or they hide the dateline, and they have a story from 3 weeks ago that comes up on social media. I think that is part of the misinformation problem that we see today. um, right now, 2026, and It's why you got to be awfully careful when you go to sources, and why sources that are, are often cited are worth their weight, because you can trust them. You can trust that they're not going to be compromised. But as soon as you hear that, an owner is giving millions of dollars to Trump, Washington Post, owners are getting millions of dollars of government contracts, Washington Post, owners are getting, are trying to be nice to the administration to get big deals through CBS. Big deals like ownership deals, or like big broadcast groups are doing what they can to placate Trump to get their deals through, like Sinclair and Tegna, the local
Sure.
channels. That makes you just scratch your head and say, okay, where can I get an honest evaluation of what's going on? And there are very few places on a national basis. So,
Well, we haven't talked about PBS and NPR.
PBS, NPR. Well,
and what has been the gain for the Republican Party for the last 60 years?
cut their funds.
Because they want to defund completely.
Yeah.
NPR and PBS. They don't want any kind of federal support for them.
Yeah. And
why? Why? Because they're biased.
and
that's what they say. They say they're liberal.
Yeah. I will say there may be a perceived liberal bias, but from my experience, and I worked there for a couple of years, they didn't have a bias so much as they had, but they didn't have a political bias, but there was some bias in terms of what stories they wanted out there. And it wasn't always the best stories that were reported, or the stories that could be out there, but it didn't. I think there definitely is a bias on the part of editors who say, this is a story we should run, and if your story isn't in that list of priorities, your story that you pitch isn't there. And a lot of times the people who have those stories that are on the fringe, they don't pitch their story because they don't want to be shot down. They don't want to be rejected. So I think, but it's not, I don't think it's a liberal bias. I think it's just stories percolate, and they have to go through the channels, and they have to somehow survive. The best ones do. The bad ones, depending upon who pitches them, don't survive the process. I guess that should be a good thing, but depending on your perspective, it can be seen as, oh, you guys are biased against this, or you guys are biased for that. And
look at what they're doing is, they say, okay, there's certain subject matter, okay, that in and of itself is problematic. For example, whether or not there is such a thing as, whether or not coal and the use of coal is highly problematic in terms of its ecological
environment
effect. It's an negative environmental impact. Okay. And so there's a whole industry that is against that, and we understand that. And then there's going to be politicians who are in coal country, West Virginia. We understand that. Okay. We expect them to take those kinds of positions. Okay. That say limiting this coal production, right, is harmful to the economy of the United States. It's harmful to all these people that work in the industry, so on and so forth. Now, here's the reporter that gets the information, balances it against what we know from science. Okay, here it is, writes the story. And then you say, editor says, okay, at NPR, they will say, yeah, this is a good story because it covers something of dire public interest, right? And that's ecology, the environment, and how people, whether or not people get clean air and clean water. So that's important. From the right perspective, that's liberal. They just say that's liberal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And then they draw the line and say, you keep talking that stuff, we're not gonna fund you.
Right. Well, that's the politics. You know, trying that's political players trying to Bigfoot, uh, and trying to impose their will on journalists who should be free to make their decision. I found a bias against liberalism, and that were, as much as I found a bias for liberal causes when I worked there. So, and essentially, it canceled each other out, and it wasn't. It didn't matter. Was the story good? Now, you're right. People, based on your perspective, if you're a listener, you'll say, "Oh, that story's this way, or that story's that way." You'll have
That's
your
the problem.
perspective.
And, well,
Yeah.
I think that. Well, let me ask you this: has the left or the right, generally speaking, been more successful at defining where that line is between what is, quote, liberal and what is conservative, what is moderate and therefore neutral? You know?
I think the right has been better able to define it because they seem to be forcing their way into defining what kind of news organizations will thrive, and they have built an audience for that kind of news. So they've built a taste for that kind of news, which I think is I think that's antithetical to journalism, because it shouldn't be based on, a perspective. It should have all perspectives. A good news organization covers all perspectives, and
Yep.
and Fox and the Newsmaxes and the One Americas, they go down one lane, and then suddenly when the government comes in, then it becomes propagandistic, and then when social media starts cutting in and becoming a replacement for the legitimate news. You can get your legitimate news now as a form of gossip in social media. People would rather get it there, and that's how the whole thing falls apart. The fourth estate.
Because too many people, especially in American society, but all over the world, and human beings are human beings, and what they want is affirmation of their own belief system. That's what they want. However simplistic that may be, their beliefs, etc. I just lost you. Hello. Come back to me. Hello. Okay. Earth calling Emil. Earth calling Emil. Have you gone completely amok? Earth calling Emil. ¿A dónde vas? ¿A dónde vas? My internet is very strong. Evidently yours is not. Okay. Now you're playing with my size.
I don't know what happened. Oh, there. Okay.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
You should be able to hear me and see me.
Well, that's the idea.
I don't know what's going on here.
Me either. Okay. I can see you now.
Work?
Now.
Okay. All right. So anyway.
Wait,
all right,
did we go down a rabbit hole or what?
Yeah, I just think, look, here's the thing. And the communication, it almost doesn't, where you get your news is important.
That's one problem.
But the service we provide is we provide perspectives, and a perspective that isn't ordinarily seen, and that people can say, "Oh, you're full of it," or whatever. But it's a perspective not ordinarily seen.
We start with facts. We start with facts that you and I agree on. Okay, where I expressed an opinion or a perspective based on my own experience, right?
Yeah.
And continuous experience about how people can compromise even journalists, right? Because they believe in a certain problem or issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's only a given issue, and that it's not. This is more than bias. It's not just bias.
Yeah.
It is
Well, yeah,
actually a commitment, right?
and this is the thing about editors who are so um, they they may seem stringent for saying if you cover politics in America, you can't vote. There are some papers that have that standard. They say if you cover, um, if you cover the Supreme Court, you better not be in a protest line, with a flag
Yeah, there
saying,
you go. Yeah.
gay rights or
Yep. Yep. Yep.
save abortion rights. Uh, and
Except,
that's
except to cover it. Except to cover
yeah.
it, not as an
Well,
active participant. Yeah.
well, no. I mean, so the line for journalists is, if you take a stand on abortion rights, you don't do stories on abortion. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do stories on real estate. I'll do
Sure.
stories on sports. I'll do stories on anything, but I won't cover abortion.
There you
If
go.
you take a stand on gay rights, um, you're not doing stories on gay rights. I'm sorry. You'll do stories on ethnic, religion, something, but not gay rights. I mean, so the line is not absolute saying, hey, you have an opinion. You can't be a journalist at all. No, it means I can't cover certain stories where my opinion is known. But on other subjects, I can cover it. Politics, is broad. If you have a known opinion about, I guess, I guess if you are known to be anti-Trump, you shouldn't cover Trump, but you can just cover it from an opinion perspective to say, yeah, this is my opinion on this guy, Donald Trump. And as long as look in journalism, as long as it's labeled, no one's fooling anybody. You might have credibility as being a critic of Trump. So then, they label it opinion, op-ed, whatever, and that's how you survive as a journalist. Anyway, this is interesting. We defended Betty Yee. We defended journalists. You defended the CIA. Okay, how about Kash Patel? How about Kash Patel? We did. Are we?
Oh
Are we
man,
going to
we
agree?
got into it for a moment. I think that was tied in. Yeah. No, what the
Is
reason we got into this was because I said there's a danger now. We're in danger. Okay, the
Oh,
United
yeah.
States domestically is in danger, not just because Kash Patel is a director, right? Because you got other people within the FBI that know how to run the place properly. Okay,
Yeah.
it's that he is in such a high position and he's been able to push all kinds of other activities, okay, onto the
Yeah.
FBI, and they fired a lot of people. And some of the people that they fired because of their involvement in investigations having to do with Trump in the past,
Right.
both before his first administration and during his first administration, they fired all of them, and some of them were national security experts. That's the
Right.
problem.
They fired some good people. So here's the thing. It sounds like as long as Kash Patel stays up there,
We're in danger.
America's in danger. Yeah. See, you shouldn't stay up
Well,
there.
yeah. Well,
You should be out.
who's going to get rid of him? Who's going to get rid of him? It has to be Trump.
And the only way he would get rid of him is if Donald Trump needs Kash Patel because Kash Patel makes Pete Hegseth look sober. So because of that, because Kash Patel makes Pete Hegseth look sober and rational, we need Kash Patel.
No, he doesn't look sober and rational. He looks sober, okay? But don't give me rational. Don't give me rational, please. Do not give me rational. He is a practitioner. Both of them are practitioners of faux masculinity, right?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, and who's the greatest practitioner of faux masculinity? The President of the United States, right? He governs according to faux masculinity. He's doing it right now, even though he tackled on the extension, right? He gave the ceasefire.
Let's share with the audience. Here's the latest. President Trump said he was extending a ceasefire with Iran on Tuesday, just hours before it was set to expire. So it was going to be, this is a taco move, right? This is taco, right? Taco. And what's really, I think, upsetting is that there were people making money on this taco move.
Yes. Yes.
maybe, on Kalshi, on Polymarket, do you think that someone on Trump's team put a bunch of crypto or something on these markets to make money? Hey, boss is going taco. Boss is going taco. This is how you
Look,
make your
it's
money.
not
I'm going to
just
pay him.
Trump's team, man. It's not just Trump's team. The entire Congress, including Democrats, refused to put restrictions on that could be that could make it possible for people to
Yeah.
do what? Insider trading. They refused
Well,
to do that. Okay, they're
I think
crooked
it's
as hell. Okay.
I I, I think it's a corrupt.
Yes.
I,
No.
so
Okay.
anyway.
No
So
S.
look.
No S, Sparky. I don't want to say the nasty, but no.
So
No poo
the
poo.
announcement came. The announcement came after Vice President J.D. Vance's trip to Pakistan for a second round of negotiations with Iran was put on hold because, according to a U.S. official, Tehran failed to respond to American positions, and so they have finger pointing. It's Tehran.
Okay,
Tehran didn't
sure.
say
Okay, so then what do we
they
do?
didn't want to
What do we
accept the
do as good
straight.
journalists? What do we do as good journalists? As good journalists, we look for other perspectives, right? And the first one you should be looking at is, what does Iran say? And Iran says,
Right.
okay, well, they got the blockade. They did the blockade. They're stopping our ships. Okay, as long as they got the blockade, the double blockade up. Okay, we
Right.
ain't going. We ain't going to Islamabad. It's as simple as that. So there were two
Well,
things that they wanted. They wanted Vance to be there, and they want the blockade by the United States to stop. Okay, that's
right.
it.
Double blockade. You don't need a raincoat in the shower.
It
You
got
don't need
them
a
coming
raincoat in the
and
shower.
going. Oh boy.
Yeah. So the president made the announcement on Truth Social, of course, because that's become his preferred mode of communication. He said he'd received a request from Pakistan, which is trying to mediate an end to the war, to hold off any attacks. Mr. Trump said a ceasefire would stay in effect until Iran's leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. And Iran did not immediately respond to the news. This was written by the New York Times. And this morning, Trump told CNBC, I expect to be bombing. The military is raring to go. So he wasn't expecting to do anything but go. Well, he was hoping that he'd have the ceasefire, but now it looks like we have more war. This is what was said by Trump a couple hours ago. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time as a proposal is submitted and discussions are conducted one way or the other. So he's trying to play it both ways there. I'm extending it, we're giving them time, but it does make the United States look weak.
Well, yeah. His explanation is a plausible explanation for once, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times his explanation stinks like crazy, but this time it's plausible, right? It's at least that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So what
the
you want to hear, you want to hear from an Iranian perspective. You want to hear from Al Jazeera or somebody like that,
Well, here's the Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, who said the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports violates the ceasefire and amounts to an act of war. In a post on X, Araghchi said Iran would defend its interests and resist bullying. Araghchi's comments come as both Iran and the United States have attacked ships trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. On Saturday, India said 2 of its ships came under attack from Iranian forces. The next day, the U.S. military attacked and seized an Iranian flag cargo ship after it tried to maneuver around the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. And so this is where we are. We're waiting for Iran to come up with a proposal that Donald Trump likes. Of course, he continues to say to people, "Oh, we won. We're winning," but we're not winning. So,
well, we're losing in so many ways. It's pitiful.
Yeah.
Also, one of the other issues that Iran is very much firm stance on is that Israel's got to quit bombing on Lebanon and encroaching on its territory. Okay, and Israel's continuing to bomb, and they keep saying it's a ceasefire. I mean, Israel itself is saying that. And in the
Yeah,
meantime, members of the IDF are killing Lebanese civilians.
but
Okay, they killed a couple of Christian civilians. Okay,
I mean, they've been bombing Lebanon since the ceasefire took hold, and then
yes,
when there
absolutely.
and even when a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon was declared, they kept bombing, even
And
though
and and they were saying we're getting ready to meet. They're saying we're going to arrange for a meeting, and now the original position was we're going to arrange for a meeting, and the rumor was that it's going to even include Hezbollah,
yeah,
representative of Hezbollah. Okay, and now it's no Hezbollah. Okay, so
yeah, well,
what's
yeah.
up, man? If you want to disarm Hezbollah, I mean, maybe you should talk to them, right?
So the world doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, it does.
They
Yes, it does.
well it doesn't make sense in the
You
right
have to
moral
understand
way.
what each of their motivations are. You have to understand that's the whole thing about international relations is the problematic element of it is you have to be relativistic. You have to be willing to stand in the shoes of the other nation, okay? And then you try and figure out what your scenario is going to be. And
Well,
that's how we're trained. You set
well,
up five or
Donald
six
Trump
different scenarios.
Donald Trump doesn't stand in the Iranian
No,
shoes.
he doesn't.
He can't.
He works. He doesn't even step in whole steps. He
He
steps
can't.
in
He
half
can't even.
steps.
He doesn't understand what the Iranians want,
He doesn't want
and
to understand what they want. That's
he
not.
just
That's not what he wants. What
he
he
just wants
wants
them
is
to
to
accept
snap.
what he wants.
He
He
wants
just
to
wants them
smash
to
and
accept.
grab. He wants to use the military to knock them down as hard as they can until they say uncle. I mean, it's like him watching an MMA fight. That's it. Just bash the hell
So
out of them until they yield.
so it's really a position, a non-negotiating negotiation stance.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
mean, which doesn't make sense. I
Well,
mean, that's why it doesn't make
he's
sense. I mean,
saying
it makes sense. It makes sense
yes,
if you think that they're going to capitulate and say, "Hey, I'm crying uncle now," but they're not going to cry uncle. And in fact, what Donald Trump has done is he's given them a real practical nuke, which is the Strait of Hormuz, which they didn't really understand they had the power to close and open before the war started. Now they do, and this is more powerful than any nuke, any nuclear dust, and I don't even know what Donald Trump
which is
wants.
the term,
I don't
which is
even
the
know what
term that he invented. I don't even know what the hell that means. It's a term that
nuclear
he
dust.
invented. Nuclear dust.
I think
You know.
it's a new kind of cocaine or something. Uh,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah. Well,
I
yeah.
I I don't see
Did you
where.
see him ask for whatever the drug was? They were talking about a drug that was they were going to put out. Oh, psychedelics.
Yeah,
That the use of
psychedelics on
psychedelics
Saturday.
were found to be very helpful, for aiding patients that are suffering from very
Mental health.
profound depression
Yeah.
and other issues, anxiety, etc. And he said, "Can I have some?" He said so while he was
I didn't
citing
hear
those.
that. Look, this is the thing about Trump. Trump can do anything he can or anything he wants in terms of executive order. And that's how he got that thing on Saturday. But these harder things he can't. He doesn't know how to deal. He only knows the
He doesn't
bullying.
want to know, and that's why his staff keeps keeping him away from stuff. The only thing they can't control is Trump Truth
Yeah,
Social. He's
yeah,
got his freaking phone, so they
yeah,
can't control that, and that's why he uses it.
yeah. Well, I just think that right now, we're not going to have we're going to have an extension of the ceasefire,
Right.
but this ceasefire is not indefinite. He's waiting, but I don't know what he's expecting. At some point, the Iranians will, whatever they come up with, they're going to keep the strait. They're not going to give up the strait.
Why would they want to give that up? That's their biggest source of leverage. This is a bigger lever than nukes. This is a
Yeah,
bigger lever than nukes. Okay. It has an immediate political and economic effect, mostly economic. Okay. Uh, You're barking on. Oh no!
Oh no, now you're back. Okay, you're
Oh
down.
no!
Now you're
No,
back.
I didn't. I didn't leave. I was constant. You left.
Oh no, you left. You hey, listen. Here's the thing, Dan. Uh, nukes, nukes are kind of this, uh, philosophical. They're intended to be real, but not real, right? They're supposed to be deterrents, so they're not supposed to be nukes. They're just these philosophical things that mutual destruction. We don't want that, so it makes us do certain things because we have a trust that we don't want to destroy the world and we don't want to destroy each other. But it's different when you believe in suicide. It's different when you believe in, you know, you believe in the end of civilization serves your God. And
Mutual,
so,
mutual. You believe in mutual annihilation. Yeah.
well, mutual. I mean that's a thing. When people believe in death, right? Then and they believe in suicide,
Death, and
and
then
that's
the afterlife. The afterlife is your salvation. You bring
right.
everybody into the afterlife, and the people who are nasty go to bad places.
And there's Trump. Mr. Bible reading the Bible today. He's reading the Bible, and he's writing that.
There's a rumor that the pages started to burn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, his hands. Hey, so all right. So how long is this going to go, Dan? This is going to go. We're in this for. It's not going
For
away
the
anytime
foreseeable
soon.
future. This foreseeable future. Here's the nasty part. Even if they came to an agreement and a ceasefire held, okay, and they started working out the details of
Yeah,
an agreement, it would look probably a lot like the JCPOA that Trump tore
yeah,
up. Okay, that's
yeah.
one. Number two, even if that happened and the stock market recovered, right, the oil
Mhm.
market for the United States will not recover. Okay, because many other products besides petroleum itself, okay, come through the Strait of Hormuz. So
Yeah.
the after effects of that, okay, you can probably span out over several months, is including, right, the November elections.
Yeah.
So remember
So
who was it, the not Scott Bessett, who really comes off as a complete idiot whenever he opens his mouth, but
yeah,
there was another secretary who spoke the other day, and he said, no, the price of oil is probably going to stay
oh,
high, and it'll stay high.
that's that's right, right. The energy secretary. He said
Yeah.
exactly the same thing that Trump said like a couple days before, and then Trump contradicted him. So
No, that's wrong. He said, no, he's
yeah,
wrong about
so
that.
yeah, so we
uh,
don't know. He's lying. He's, as I put it,
uh,
he's uh,
no,
Trump
it can
isn't
end tomorrow.
taco.
It'll drop immediately. I mean, as soon as this agreement, you see, it'll drop.
Yeah. So Trump isn't taco. He's lumpia. He's a lying,
No, please,
unintelligent,
please do not
mother
connect our culture.
pucking,
Do not connect our
incoherent.
culture with that man. Do not
Yeah.
connect our culture in any way with that man.
He's
It's
lumpia. He's gotten
bad
lumpia.
enough.
I
It's
felt I
bad
felt
enough that
sorry
we're
for the
condemning.
taco.
Hey, yeah. See, that's the problem. Now, we've connected a Mexican cultural element, right, to that man. Geez.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for that, but I
Well,
just
you
thought
didn't start it. It was
The
everybody
Olympia
else.
acronym just made more sense, and a lot of Trump people like our Filipinos. So um, so it's
Unfortunately, yeah,
Olympia.
yeah, we're
So
right up
so
there.
Dan,
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I asked the Filipinos, are you for Trump? Mr. Healing Hands, Mr. Jesus, Donald Jesus Trump, and they're all for Trump. They're all
They're
they
still,
aren't
even
they are
now, even after the
yeah
blasphemy.
yes
Obviously,
they aren't pushing back, or they're going along because I think it's true that at some point you just want to win. Democracy be damned,
there it is.
religion be
There
damned.
it is.
Uh,
And
People just
even that is embarrassing, right? Because they
it
see,
is embarrassing. It is.
even that, if they think this guy's a winner at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think I mentioned that story to you before. That
yeah.
even in the midst of the rising opposition to Marcos, right? People were talking
Yeah.
about what a genius he was, and these were people who were anti-Marcos, man. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I just think right now, I got a small sample, but I just got a sense that people don't care so much. They're going to ride with Trump as long as they can. And it's unfortunate because, now's the time to start, telling stories of resilience. Now's the time to
We should
commit
be
to
getting the art.
voting.
Yeah, but no, I'm going to push for more. I want to push for. I don't care if you're a Democrat or not. I don't care if you're a Republican or not. Okay,
Mm,
I like independence a lot. Okay,
mm,
now what we need to do is say if and when the Democrats take both houses. Okay,
mm.
what
I
can
think
they
it's going to
do?
happen.
What? Well, okay.
Oh, yeah,
Let's say that it does. I'm still on the might, okay, especially about the Senate, but about the House, probably
yeah.
a good probability. Okay, let's say
So
that
yeah,
they
what?
now say. So what can they do specifically, okay, to bring down the costs that are hurting Americans of the working class and the middle class? Right then, what can they do that has the most immediate positive effect in giving the American people the relief they seek?
Tax the rich.
Immediate positive effect. Come on, man. Okay, that might happen in California. That might happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm just saying, if to bring down the costs, they're going to need to raise revenues. They're going to need to.
how about if you just kill the tariffs? What about if you could just kill
Oh
the
well,
tariffs? You know,
not
what about that as an
tariffs.
initial action?
The refunds are coming in, or
Yeah, but who are
they're
they going to go
started.
to? They're going to
Yeah,
go to
I mean,
the biggest importers are going to get the biggest refunds,
yeah, and the consumers getting nothing.
and the local small businesses
Getting
who,
not probably nothing.
who
We hope they get something, but
they were directly injured, okay, because
yeah,
they have to. There's nowhere to run. Whatever the price is that they have to pay for the goods that they usually have on their shelves, they got to pay it. Okay, what are they
yeah,
going to get? And the application doesn't even give room to them to apply because they
yeah.
don't answer to some of the criteria that the application states.
Well,
You need to meet.
they're trying to make it easier for small businesses, but frankly, I think it's going to be, the big players. They'll get something, and maybe we'll get some kind of relief when they pass on some of uh,
Sure.
the
Just
tariff
like
wealth back
just
to
like when
consumers. But
just like when the right wingers pushed Proposition 13. They said, just think, rents will come down. Remember that?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
That
it
ever
did.
happen?
Hey Dan, look, we've gone over. I've got something to get to, but
Okay.
listen, I appreciate the vigorous discussion. I think
It was a goodie. I really
I
enjoyed it.
think I think uh, the ceasefire. I was hoping when I saw that Trump was hedging a bit and JD Vance wasn't leaving. I something's going to happen, but I don't really think Trump knows what he's doing. So
Oh
better
wow.
to sort of not meet, not
Emil
meet now.
Amok. Emil Amok, the master of understatement.
I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be. Because I don't want to go over. I don't want to go over on this guy Trump. All right, so Dan, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you again soon, and we'll watch to see. Maybe we'll get more. We'll get more of a ceasefire. Maybe he'll extend another couple weeks. Maybe he'll. But so more taco than lumpia. But I think a
They'll
lot.
keep they'll keep extending the ceasefire, but what's important is whether or not, okay, Iran gets what it needs so that they open up the strait. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, and if when the U.S. starts seeing Iran's needs, I think you'll start seeing things open up because I don't think Iran knows it's got to rebuild, and it's gonna and Trump says it's gonna take you 20 years. I think even he sees that there's some, maybe the United States ends up building Iran. Maybe Iran becomes the 51st state. I don't know. Maybe.
What was the Marshall Plan? And
Yeah.
what major industries in the United States sent their factories whole to
Oh yeah.
Japan after the
So
Second World War? So
engineering firm.
that's the history, man.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we bomb them, we rebuild, and America pays. But
Yeah.
we buy their allyship, I guess, right?
Well,
We
for a
buy
while,
their
until their products get so good, they can become direct competitors to our products.
Japan
And
all
then,
over again.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. All right,
They
Dan.
already got better drones. We didn't even cover
I know.
that. Man. We got to talk about the reality of that war.
The asynchronous war, as they call it. All right, Dan.
All right.
Take care. Good luck. I'll talk to you soon. There he goes, Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University, my friend. We put him up early today because I thought, well, maybe we'll get something interesting on the ceasefire. I've got something to go to in a bit, so I got to cut it off short here now. But remember, Dan and I will be at the library, San Francisco Public Library main branch, May 2nd. So if you enjoyed our conversation, get in on the conversation. You can talk to us and ask questions, and we'll discuss. Main branch, Public Library, San Francisco, 2 p.m. to 3:30 on Saturday, May 2nd. It's the first weekend of Asian and Pacific American Heritage Month, and we're going to talk about immigration, talk about other things, talk about things you have questions on. Show up. It's free at the Hormel Room, 3rd floor, San Francisco Public Library. All right, that's it. Got to run. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to leave you with a little meditation. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time.